Hey, this is a video for someone using FreeCAD concerned with flipping sketch elements and changing measurements. So, my name is Drew. I run Regular Cycles LLC in St. Paul, Minnesota. Just so you have a face to a name because everything is artificial intelligence these days. So, let's get to it. Gonna open up your file here and I'm gonna change the display mode so I can see what I'm doing. Let's open up this sketch. And okay, yeah, I see what you're doing here. You have a distance. This is a good way of doing it, by the way. It's like it's trying to find the minimum because you've selected the line and the object. It assumes a perpendicular offset. So that's a good way of doing it. But I'll just show you another way of doing it. So we'll do a line from the center to the surface. So it's connected, and then change it to construction mode and give it an angle relative to the x-axis. In this case, 0 degrees. So it has a weird appearance to it, and it's hard to drag it around, and it does weird stuff like that. So maybe that's a bad approach. I'll get rid of that angle and instead do an angle relative to the y-axis. I'm going to do KA as a shortcut, give it 90 degrees. That's a lot easier to look at, but it's also kind of unsightly. And once you're satisfied with the arrangement, this is something where I just sort of shunt it off to the other layer, the switch virtual space function. It can just be somewhere else. You can toggle it with ZZ, and if you have nothing selected, it goes in between layers. If you select something and then it'll go away, do it again, that sort of thing. So it is possible to hide these helpers. And I tend to name them as well, like some perp. Anyway, now you have a very rigid definition that this construction line is always going to be facing west relative to the circle center. And you can refer to this point, which is basically the end point of this line. Refer to this point in a very reliable way. So I'll give it 32 millimeters again, give this a name, sum gap, change it to 10, change it to 50, change it to 32 again. You get the idea. So that's one way of doing it. Going to see if I can, yeah, it's named, so it's higher up out of the unnamed constraints. I'm going to see if I can just give it some other value, like 12. I'll come over here and hit enter. I see you don't have it actually as a, okay. I'll just do it in the sketch then. Alright, 32, hit enter. Yeah, so that's another durable way of doing it. This beam essentially never changes its angle, which is something that could happen if you were to just use a horizontal constraint. It can kind of flip one way to the other, which is very frustrating. Another durable way of doing it is if you are calling out the radius ahead of time, you can use that in the form of an expression. You measure between the center points of the two circles, and in this case, instead of doing a distance, which would measure, kind of at an angle, I'm going to use a width instead. And I'm going to apply it first so that it at least gets in the registry without any errors. I'm going to give it some gap as a name, and then I'm going to go into the expression field. And in this case, I'm going to refer to the constraints, and you can hit down arrow key and hit enter, and it'll autocomplete the stuff. I'm going to choose base radius. And in this case, since the circles are identical, I'm just going to choose it again. And then whatever you want the gap to be. So if we measure from this line again and this one again in the form of a reference constraint. Okay, I got this wrong because these are both diameter measurements. I treated them as radius measurements. So we'll do first of all, I'll change the name to accurately reflect of what this is, base diameter. And I'll update the formula to be half of the diameter of the first one and half of the diameter of the second one. And you could follow this format to essentially treat it where you would know the radius of the first and second circle if they were different radiuses from each other. So now this gap once again reflects your intent. So what I like to do in these kind of situations is I don't want to go into the expression editor every time and then sift out the part of the string that I might accidentally damage, right? So instead I'll replace this with some small variable, and it can exist directly on the data pane of the sketch itself. So you just right click in the data area, add property. I like to prefix my stuff with AA just because it puts it higher up in the list. You can do either a length or an angle or a float. So a float is unitless. In this case I'm going to do a length so it has a unit. I'll call it AA intended gap and give it a value of 32. Add it, close the thing. It exists now at the top of the list, and you can immediately refer into it after you've refreshed your sketch. So it's already available. So I'm going to replace 32 millimeters with AA intended gap. And now, if you wanted to update it, you just could. So 25, I'll hit enter, and the reference constraint is 25. And this measurement here is basically inarguable. That is the essential value of constraints. It's not exactly straightforward. It's not easy, but it is really, really frickin' durable.